Hello, everybody. It's 5:57 a.m. Central Time on the 14th of April, 2023. It's Friday here in the United States. Already the weekend internationally, and I hope you are doing well. We have a big, deep earthquake to talk about in the West Pacific, as well as a 6.0 range event which struck yesterday on the west coast of North America, just west of Vancouver, BC, just northwest of Washington State. Let me get a display capture turned on here so you can see what I'm talking about. Here's our new deep upper 6 to low 7, which struck on the plate boundary at Indonesia. This fulfills the forecast for Indonesia. In case you did not know, let me take you over and show you over here on my YouTube page. I'm not bragging or anything like that. I just have to tell people who are new. 8 days ago, we issued a 7 to 10 day watch for several different events to take place, one of which was watching for an upper 6 to low 7 to strike between Sumatra and Java, Indonesia. Let me show you where the new deep earthquake has just taken place. It's below Java, Indonesia here. Here's Sumatra. Here's Java. Here's our new deep upper 6 to low 7. Now look at the red lines here. The red lines spread out over to the east, over to the west by northwest, up to the north, and all the way around the Indo-Australian plate, of course, the plate boundary goes. Now I'm going to show you something here. We're going to turn off all the smaller earthquakes, and I'm going to turn on a feature we only show when we're talking about deep earthquakes. So you'll see a shell-like, dome-like feature, and I can even turn off the planet here so you can see it's more like a bubble. I want you to think of this like a bubble or a dome of pressure coming up on the underside of the plate boundaries that I just showed you here. So think of it like a giant upwelling force coming up underneath the plate and coming up through the cracks on the plate boundary. Think of these as cracks that start at the surface and go all the way down to the underside of the plate. Or you could think of it like somebody lifting on the underside of a big slab of stone, and there's already cracks in the stone that go over to the east and up to the west, northwest, to the north, and around the outside edge. And now, look where our dome spreads out to. And I can adjust the size of the dome. I have it turned all the way up like we normally do. You see in the upper left-hand corner here. And let me make sure you can see this. So you see where it spreads out to, right? Well, let me name the areas where it spreads out to. First of all, this fulfills the forecast in the middle for the area where we're watching for upper 6 to low 7. Check that one off the list. Now, I still have 2 days left to go in the warning for an upper 7 to low 8 to strike here. You see where the ring goes out to? That's where our warning is, going from Vanuatu over to Solomon Islands. Vanuatu is here where the arrow is, and Solomon Islands right here. And the dome spreads out over to the east that far. Now, the dome also spreads over to the west by northwest, up into the border where Nepal meets into China. It also spreads to the far west, right out to the edge of Madagascar. Let me show you what's there. Going back to the plate boundary. Look, up in India at Nepal, over here west, over next to Madagascar. And it spreads down to the south. Look, goes down across. I'll show you what's here, but you see the Dutch Sins logo and what's south. It goes right over the Dutch Sins logo. How ironic, right? It goes around through South Australia and back up to the north. But down here to the south, where the Dutch Sins logo is, the dome spreads out down to here, to the plate boundary. All the plate boundaries on all sides should see a significant increase. If we are lifting on the underside of this, which we are, or Mother Nature is, it should spread up, out, and away. And I've said this for 9 years. I almost said 7. 9 years we've been talking about deep earthquakes having a shallower, larger earthquake effect, usually about a magnitude larger. And what is 1 magnitude larger than a 7? An 8. And what are we looking for? We're looking for an 8 to strike here. And they only happen a few times a year, at the most 8s. So now we have a deep 7, and it's down at 600 kilometers deep, 594. So think of this down in the plasticky, semi-melted area called the asthenosphere, down below the plate. So this earthquake down below the plate, leveraging up on the upper side of the plate. Deep earthquake down below, shallow, larger earthquake expected up above. And then we look out to the perimeters of that big dome that I showed you, and it goes out to Vanuatu, goes out to Nepal. Also, one final spot that it spreads out to that I didn't even talk about yet. I'll show you again. Look where it goes to the north. It goes across both of our arrows in China and comes back through Japan. Now let's show you what's in Japan. It goes through China and comes back through Japan. Our H-shaped plate boundary here at Tokyo. It's a perfect match. And I mean, it goes right through it. So I would expect everywhere from Tokyo all the way down here to Vanuatu, all the way back around through south of Australia, over to the west of the Indian Ocean, up to Nepal, back around, the whole area to show a major shift over the next 7 to 10 days. Now, I've already checked the Volcanic Ash Advisory Center. We're next to nothing on eruptions over here in Indonesia, Philippines, Papua New Guinea, just next to nothing. We just have Dukono and Ibu, 2 small blasts at a few thousand feet each. And going back to the plate boundary, we've seen 14 different volcanoes go in a single day across Indonesia and Philippines. To have 2, that's low. I would expect the volcanic increase to take place, but I don't issue volcanic forecast. I'm just telling you, we should see a huge increase in volcanism as well as this uplifting force, this wave, this very low frequency wave, this vibration. Think of this like a bass drum down below, hammering up on the underside of the plate. When it comes up through the plate, we look for shallower, larger earthquakes as well. So this is a big deal. This is just where we're starting the update. This fulfills the forecast for Indonesia, which it's been many, many months since they've had any 7.0 level activity in Indonesia. So don't let anybody tell you, oh, it's regular, they normally get hit all the time with 7s. No, they don't. 7s only happen on the planet every few months at most. We had seen several months where there were no 7s. That was throughout the winter. So here we are one more time if you're just now tuning in. A new big, deep earthquake. Upper 6, low 7 has struck below the plate boundary at Indonesia, right at Java, before we make the bend up into Asia. We're going to see a big increase across the board, not just in the West Pacific. We spread out to the west. We can just go ahead and tell everybody right now, where we currently see 4s, we're going to see 5s. Where we see 5s, we're going to be seeing 6s. And where we see nothing, we're going to be seeing potential large earthquake activity. This means China is on watch right at the Nepal border, or Nepal is on watch at the China border. We have to warn everybody from North India all the way up into central China, and we'll start talking about mid-range to upper 6s. Now, also, for my people over here in Iran, the warning expires in 2 days. We just saw our first expected event here. Second expected event here. The first one was the big blast up here at Kamchatka. I issued a warning for an upper 6 to low 7 to strike at Kamchatka. Instead, a 52,000-foot-high blast occurred. Sent ash advisories now, as of today. Ash reaching all the way over to where this 6 is, off the coast of Vancouver, BC, according to the Volcanic Ash Advisory Center. So a big blast happened at the first spot where we issued the warning for an upper 6 to low 7. We checked it off the list. Now, here's our second one. Third one is over here at over here at Iran. And fourth one is over here east of Indonesia at Vanuatu. Okay? So we're checking them off the list. It's taking the full 10 days for this to happen as expected. Mother Nature is not working on a daily process. It's more like a weekly and bi-weekly process, as the wave takes a while to come up, spread out, and drop off the earthquakes along the way as it spreads out. Now look where we have an overlapping point for all these rings. What would you say the triangulated point between all those 3 sets is? I would say it's right here, wouldn't you? Where all 3 sets of rings are overlapping, somewhere right here in the middle. Well, that's our warned area for an upper 6 to low 7 to strike. East Iran, southwest Afghanistan, north or western Pakistan. So it's overlapped. It's like a target pointing at the area. Or, well, actually, the open area is more like a target with 3 sets of targets all the way around it. You'd say this was the next spot to be hit if you were going to fill in the middle point between them all. Over to the west we go, and it's taken a step down in activity. Look what happened, though. A spread went out of Turkey over to the edge and then up into Romania. Or is that Ukraine? Let's go see. Ukraine. Yep. Down at 10-kilometer depth, we can rule out explosions. So we're going out of Turkey, and we took a step down. We went from 4s down to 3s and 2s. But then, in Turkey, as we took a step down from 4s to 3s and 2s, we went up here as the flow is starting to go across Europe. Finally escaped out. Just in time. Just in time. Maybe because this is actually taking place over here that the escape happened over here. But now that this happened here, I'm going to have to issue a new warning. We're going to have to tell them right now in Turkey that we would watch central Turkey beyond where the previous 7s struck. I'm not going to put a magnitude on it now. We're going to wait for Iran. We're going to wait for the flow to come out of the West Pacific. But I'm just going to tell you now, seismic is about to take a step up big time in Europe. Across the board, everywhere, we're going to take a magnitude step up already. And then, depending on what strikes in Iran and what strikes in China, Nepal and those areas over here to the east, that's going to dictate, like a flowing river, what's coming downstream. This should all happen in the next 7 to 10 days. I would expect it to go at least, if I were to just take a shot in the dark right now with no earthquakes there at all, which I don't have anything to base this on now, but I would most likely think we'd take the next step up from where we were. It would mean like 6.0 level activity is coming to Turkey. While not devastatingly huge, it would mean 6s are coming back. And it would be more like here in central Turkey as opposed to here in eastern Turkey. That's just preliminary. I'm going to have a separate video on this, but I want people to be prepared now. This is like a flood that would be coming your way. And this is the storm way, way, way upriver or upstream. And it's going to be flowing. The flow is going to be going from where the deep earthquake is, out, across, over, into Iran, over to Turkey, and then try to go across Europe. But I think it should break where the previous breaks happened, and it should be to the west. That means central Turkey. For my people up in Japan, same thing, guys. We're going to be looking at 6.0 level activity to come rolling in up here in Japan. And the spot to watch is Tokyo, where the H-shaped plate boundary is between all the current sets of earthquakes. Oh, I'm sorry, not Tokyo. I stand corrected. We look at our current sets of earthquakes to determine our spots to watch. The ring overlaps on Tokyo, but our 2 sets of earthquakes puts Hokkaido in the mix. The halfway point between these 2 quakes where the rings overlap, that's Hokkaido, out to the plate boundary, right where the fold and the bend of the plate is. Okay, so that's where we watch. 6.0 at Hokkaido. Hawaii is going to take a big step up. So with the rest of the plate getting ready to take a big step up. And right now you're at 0s, 1s, and 2s. Yeah, okay, look. Yeah, Hawaii, you guys want to hold on to your hats and batten down the hatches. I think we're probably going to be taking a 2 to 3 magnitude step up here. So if we go from 0s and 1s and 2s, and we take 2 magnitude step up, that goes up to 4. If we take 3 magnitude step up, that goes to 5. So we're going to be somewhere between 4 and 5, just based upon what's happening now. I don't have anything to base this on except for the blast up at Kamchatka. I would also watch out for volcanic. Again, I don't forecast volcanoes, but with the lack of volcanic activity and a big, deep earthquake like this and a 52,000-foot eye blast up at Kamchatka, I would keep an eye on the volcanoes at Hawaii just to see. And the way you keep an eye on it is you're going to have to probably do this yourself. Go over to YouTube and search Doing Hawaii or 2 Pineapples, either or both, and have both channels open, and you can watch the volcano if there's any kind of increase. That'll show on the cameras. It'll show on their streams. They've combined all the cameras so that it's easy to reference. You don't have to sit there and click around on the USGS site. So I think Hawaii's going to take a big step up. And then if we were going to try and determine a spot now, I would look between the 3 sets of earthquakes that are here. One on the west side, one on the north side, one on the southeast side. And between all three, that puts us north of Mauna Loa, south of Mauna Kea, right in the middle of the island. So normally I would look between the big cluster just along the coast, but we have these other ones up to the north, up by Mauna Kea and over by Hualalai. And then that kind of spreads us out across the whole island. And then you look in the middle between all three sets. And that puts us just smack in the middle of the island north of Mauna Loa. So something like an upper 4 to low 5 in the middle of the big island. And keep an eye out at the volcanoes. Now let's talk about the 6 which struck on the west coast of the United States. Well, first of all, I had a warning which expired yesterday, 36 hours ago, for Anchorage, south of the plate boundary. Anchorage is right here, and the plate boundary is right here. And I can show it to you on the USGS map a little bit better if you are not sick of seeing this red line map. I had warned from right up here, where my mouse is, down to here, for 6.0 level activity to come back. And it had been many, many, many months, something like 5 months, 4 or 5 months, since anything of any significant size had struck up here, 6.0 plus out in the ocean. On land, different story, but out in the ocean, nothing, or very minimal. So, on the last day of the watch, the east side of where I issued the warning, we're 600 miles off. Here's 500-mile key takes us, 800 miles off on my warned area. We're spot on the magnitude, spot on the time, spot on in the region, but we're on the east side. We're on the Juan de Fuca fracture zone instead of south of Anchorage. So I would consider that a flop for me on the location. General speaking, I'm trying to get it down to 200 miles, but there's the quake we're looking for. It's in the northeast side of the Pacific. It's a 6. It's striking on the edge of the Sawtooth Edge Pacific plate that meets into the Juan de Fuca fracture zone. And a new 6 there means a big increase is coming for California and the West Coast in the next several days. Let me give you an example in the past where we saw a 6 up here, and I issued a warning to keep watch down in California, down here from San Francisco down into the valley. And a few days later, a 7.0 earthquake struck down at Ridgecrest, California, just beyond the valley, right here. So in the past, we've seen 6.0 level activity on the northwest side of the Juan de Fuca, followed by big earthquake activity down in Southern California, or central to Southern California. Ridgecrest is, let me turn on our faults here. Ridgecrest is right down here where the Garlock Fault meets into all the north and south facing faults that go up into Nevada, and Ridgecrest is right there. And I had a warning going from the Bay Area down into the valley, and then right at the end of the valley, or right on the Garlock, the 7 hit. But first, it was preceded by 6.0 level activity up here on the north side of the Juan de Fuca, when that happened in July of 2018, 17, 18, 19, 17. July of something. July of 2018, I think. Okay. Anyway, 6.0 level activity up here sends my radar off, and I want to watch down in California. I already have a warning going down in Southern California for upper 4 to low 5. I'm going to take it up by a good amount. We're going to take it up to upper 5. We're going to take it up to like 5.9. And the warning area is shifting from the LA basin down to San Diego at the border, going over as far east as Salton Sea, and as far north as the central Mojave out at Pisgah Crater. So we're going to have to watch the central Mojave south to San Diego for the next several days for the potential of an upper 5. However, in the past, like I said, we've seen it go up to 7. But I'm issuing the warning for a 5.9. I think it's going to take a step down as we go into the plate. I think this is going to divide and go over to Yellowstone. Idaho Yellowstone's going to see something like an upper 4 to low 5 and a big swarm outbreak on the edge of the craton. Let me show you this. Check this out. Here's the craton diagram. Look in the Pacific Northwest. We have our black arrows. Black arrow in the far northwest goes right up over Vancouver, and it points in to Yellowstone directly on the rusty brownish part of the North American Craton, where the purple meets the brown, the northwest arrow. And we expect the flow to go in and go to that edge of the Craton, then down through Texas, then back up into Oklahoma, then up the East Coast. You'll notice it goes through Colorado, too. So remember the Craton. Remember the edge of the Craton, because that's the way the flow is going to go once it gets into the plate. And we're going to take a huge step up. This is like a big arrival of a wave on the coast. It's going to go all the way across the plate, following the path that's already there. Hey, check it out. A new earthquake has struck in New Mexico, right south of the border with Colorado. We have a warning going in southern Colorado, but this is 2 magnitudes under. Warning going right here at Trinidad, where the red arrow is, and we're just south of the pumping operations in New Mexico. Look at the rest of the spread of earthquakes going up the East Coast. We're now moving in the Northeast, Canada side of the border, and the U.S. The new addition is the 2.6 in New York. And it's down at 6-kilometer depth. One more time, I have to show you the Craton diagram. Northeast. Look in the Northeast United States. Look at the Craton edge. Then, look at the earthquakes. We go down through Texas, back up to the Northeast. The only thing missing at this point is for us to take a magnitude step up, 1 magnitude, to 3.6. And the final thing we're looking for, do you see this big open area right here? We have earthquakes all the way across the North American Craton. Literally. Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Tennessee, North Carolina, and up to the northeast, far northeast, like I said, New York and by the border of Maine. And then right here in the middle, it's open, right? No earthquakes reported at all. Let's just make sure about that. No zeros or anything? Not even a zero. Now, I've got a warning going right there. I'm not kidding. The only spot where there's no earthquakes reported is the spot where I got the warning going. It's just too bizarre. Let me just sip my coffee while you ponder that one. This is 2 days worth of quakes. Let's go back the whole week. No biggie. Did Dutch Simpson issue a warning? I can imagine some government agency sitting there, a team of people in a cubicle farm. Maybe military, maybe camouflage, I don't know. Maybe it's people working from home now. Anyway, they're sitting there and they're like, oh, where did they issue the warning? And they're like, well, what we're going to need to do is shut off all those seismographs in the air. I'm not saying they're doing that. I'm just saying I think that it could be possible that they're doing that. Anyway, that's where our warning's going. It's just too bizarre. Every other spot has been hit in the whole... Okay, hey, you know what? All I got to do for there not to be an earthquake is issue a forecast for it. It's a new preventative measure. Our insurance company should hire me, and I can wave my magic wand. I'm like Harry Potter, Dutchy Potter, under the stairs. Expecto Petroleum! Oil comes out of the ground. Go to work for Halliburton. What would happen if Harry Potter sold out and became an oil shill? Expecto Petroleum, that's what would happen. All right, anyway, let's go on. So we're going to look down in Southern California. Now, finally, guys, California, what more do you need? You've got a 6 up off the West Coast. You've got a 4.5 that already struck north of the Bay Area. Southern California is the only one sitting out high and dry on this. And we're watching Southern California already because the flow is already coming in. You can see it in the last 2 days going down the coast and down the border of California, both sides. So we have stacks of earthquakes, big swarm up north of the Bay Area at the volcano at Clear Lake. Clear Lake, the geysers, in case you don't know, there's the Geyserville and Clear Lake volcano. That's where you got hit with your 4 on the side of the volcano. But then we go down to the south, and there's a line of earthquakes, which goes down through the Bay Area and then down to Southern California, where we stop right here next to the pumping operations. We jump to the east and to the west. It's trying to go around this big set of drill points and perforations. It literally is. The wave is going around. It's going to go down to the south and I think accumulate down here where we're going to see our other significant earthquake. I hope it strikes out in the Mojave, but we have to warn everybody for a 200-mile stretch all the way from San Diego going north past 29 Palms out into the deserts there, right in the middle of the starfort. Cue up the Twilight Zone music. Now let's go one more time for my people up to the north. Swarm and up to 4.9 up in Idaho going to Yellowstone. Look how many earthquakes are there now in the last 2 days. So, 2 earthquakes. Now, there's the difference. Yellowstone gets hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of tremors per day. Don't confuse the tremors with earthquakes. Tremors do get assigned magnitudes, but they're more like vibrations as the magma chamber shifts. You can see them on the seismographs. If you watch the Yellowstone seismographs, just looks just like choppy. They're just all over the place, the tremors. And that's the magma shifting down below. But these are actual earthquakes, the 2 that are on here. Earthquakes cracking in the plate up above the magma chamber. So watch for the cracking to start. Now, I don't know if there's a way to reference the tilt meters and inflation and all that stuff that they do with the GPS, or if that'll be something that'll show up downstream or downstream of time, that'll show up in a few weeks or a few months from now that we'll get the GPS measurements and see the difference. But it may be an inflationary event even that happens off this. As the wave comes in, we might see it actually rise, and that'll cause a big swarm. It really will. It'll also cause shifting going all the way down through Colorado. The only thing missing now from the United States forecast is for Colorado, technically Colorado and Delaware. The 2 rare quakes. We have 2 more days to go in the warning. I want to go see what's here in New Mexico. Jemez Springs, New Mexico. 10-kilometer depth. I've never had to look this location up before. It's a 2.5. It's right next to where we issued the warning. It's on the Craton Edge. Oh, wow. Hold on. Look at this. Valles Caldera. I brought this up in my update a couple weeks ago. Sure did. Hold on. Look at this. Valles Caldera. Wait, let's turn off our roads and all of our place marks now that you see the volcanoes marked here. Look at this. So here's the earthquake epicenter. We got a perfect north-south facing ridge, right? Hold on. I think this will probably be the way to look at it, right? It blew out the eye of the pyramid, right? So right here, these are all volcanoes inside of the caldera itself. Valles Caldera. Sorry, I almost just knocked my microphone over. And when I see something like this, a north-south perfectly straight line, makes me wonder if there's another orientation by which I should be viewing this. And it's starting to look like there is. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, there is. Hold on. Let's just show you what to look for in case you don't know. In case you're new here, why is this thing blown out with a giant caldera on the side of it? Well, this, kids, class, this shape, I've got a 9-year-old army watching, all right? This is 150 miles long, roughly, on one side. All right. Now you might say, Dutch, that doesn't really mean anything. But if we go over here and it's 150 miles long, which it is, how could I have known, right? How could I have known ahead of time it would be 150 when I've never measured it before in my life? So we get 150 and 150 on either side. Well, I wonder how far it is down here. We're at 130. Okay, 130. If it's 130 on this side, we got a real problem. 125. That's close enough. I'm doing a rough measurement. When I start seeing something like this, and then I see that it's been blasted out in the past with a giant caldera, Mother Nature's blasted it out on the right-hand side, and we have some straight lines and some other stuff going on in there, and the total overall mileage is a couple hundred to more miles long, and it's shaped in a certain shape, we can start lending it towards ancient structures that were built a long time ago that are literally massive in size. When I say massive in size, I'm not joking. We're talking about the size. This is the Grand Canyon over here. This is the Grand Canyon right here. Over here to the west. Well, not right, exactly right there, but the Grand Canyon is right in here. Go out and across. So an old starfort shape makes up part of this, and it's got the caldera on the side of it. I just have to point it out. The only reason I'm even finding any of these is because the earthquakes are striking in them. And in case you think that I'm just seeing things and you don't believe, let me show you another example of one that I found that's here, and it's indisputable that it goes up, back down, and the only way I found this one is earthquakes. And right out here at the pinnacle tip is the San Andreas Fault. This is the San Andreas, comes down right to the tip of this one. This one backs up to the other one I just showed you. And to seal the deal that we know that there's something there, we have giant military bases built in the middle of each one. Military base in the middle of there, military base in the middle of this one, Facebook data center and Apple data center in the middle of this one. Each one's got a giant crater on the backside. Salt Lake City on the backside, Grand Canyon on the backside, and on the backside of this one is Valles Caldera. Here, with all its volcanoes going around the inside. There it is. It all ties together with very low frequency passing through the plate, electrical in nature, very powerful. But what it means is that somebody a long time ago knew about this and was tapping into it and building hundreds of mile-long structures to harness it and focus it, direct it, and use it somehow. Now, who had the ability to build things hundreds of miles long made of mountains? No one. We're not talking the Great Wall of China. We're talking mountains themselves. Who had the ability to raise and shape mountains in unnatural shapes to harness some kind of frequency? Sounds very sci-fi. But yet there it is in the topography of Earth. And the only way I found any of these is with the very low frequency earthquake striking below them. This is now, I want to say, maybe the 50th, and I'm just pulling that number out of the air. We're over 30, we're under 100 locations where we're getting significant earthquake activity, and we're finding these structures, these shapes at those spots. It can't be chance. We ruled out chance a long time ago once we got past like 10 or 15 locations. I mean, you could probably rule out chance after like 5 locations, but I wanted to really, I'm like, okay, I don't want to just think that I might be seeing something. I had other people go over it. I'm like, okay, you guys overlay it and measure it yourself and see if you agree. And some people tried to tell me it was chance. They came over and said, oh, you're just seeing pareidolia, you're just seeing shapes. But once we started finding the military bases in the middle of each one, it became more interesting. So back to the start of this update. New Deep 7 down below the plates. Very low frequency, electrical in nature, coming up through the plates and spreading out and dropping off the earthquakes all the way around the planet. We're going to look for a shallower, larger earthquake on this, up to a magnitude larger. All the warned areas still stand for 2 more days. In 2 more days, when we get to day 10, I will be issuing a new forecast for the next 7 to 10 days. And this big deep one is going to keep us going for a little bit. This is just one big deep quake. If we see any more, or if we see a flurry of other deep quakes along with it, think of it like a relay runner effect where you're passing the baton on to the next person and they run around the track once. So if we see any new deep earthquakes on top of this one, it's only going to add more to the race. Okay? We are going through it. We went from next to nothing to a 6 on the West Coast, a new warning for an upper 5 to near 6 down in Southern California issued today by me, and then now we have this in our warned area over on the West Pacific. Exactly what we were looking for. Now, as they're changing the magnitudes on these, I've noticed something. The bell is not ringing. Just on these quakes here. We have quakes around the planet that ding and ring the bell all day long, and when they change the information on the quake, it re-dings the bell. I don't know what the deal is, but for some reason, the bells are not ringing on the 7. Maybe they figured out how to not ring the bell. Do you have an earthquake plan? Oh, people tell me I didn't talk about Central America and South America. Okay. Well, okay, just really quick, I can just sum it up. Look at the spacing of the quakes going across Central America. Notice how they're somewhat equidistantly spaced. And the magnitude 4.9, 4.1, 4.5, 4.3, they're all about the same size going all the way down. within a half magnitude of each other, all the way down from Baja through central Mexico, South Mexico, down into Guatemala and beyond. We had a deep, rare earthquake in Nicaragua here, in case you didn't know. USGS ignored it. Had to catch it myself on the European feed. It was like 400 kilometers deep down below Nicaragua. Now, there are no eruptions going on here in Nicaragua, but to the north we have a few. We have Fuego, Santa Guido. Both have been going there, Fuego and Santa Guido. Down to the south, we have Nevado del Ruiz, Sanjay, Reventador, and Cotopaxi. There's 4 volcanoes that have been going to the south. 4 to the south, 2 to the north, and if you count Popocatépetl, that's 3 to the north. In the middle, a new deep quake. And you see the letter V there. Letter V is right next to Panama. Watch for new volcanic activity there as well around Nicaragua. I don't forecast volcanoes, but when I get a deep earthquake, I see a deep earthquake in a spot we don't normally see them at all, and it's down below a volcanic location, Turrialba volcano comes to mind in the location. Keep an eye on it, just in case, with the rest of the activity taking a step up. Now, while the rest of the activity took a step up across the rest of the planet, South America, look at it. It's the most earthquake-prone zone on the planet goes quiet. Yeah, that's not good. Not good. We want to see a continual release in areas of 4s and maybe a couple 5s every now and then, just as a sign that the wave is passing through the area. When you get something like this, it's gone quiet. I'll issue a new forecast in 2 days when the warning for this location expires as well. Let's just show you what's hit over the last 6 days. You see it? Hit low, 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 low. Meanwhile, we got our rare 6 7 days ago out here by Easter Island. A couple days before Easter, Easter Island area got hit by that 6. So, we watch 2 more days, coast of Chile, up to 7. That's my warning from 8 days ago. 7 to 10 day watch, issued 8 days ago, coast of Chile. Has not been hit yet. For my Australian viewers, who I also did not mention, and my New Zealand viewers, who I also did not mention, a new deep earthquake up here on your north side means pretty much a given that Australia is going to be shifting over the next 7 to 10 days. We can just go ahead and issue a broad warning now. Perth, Exmouth, Adelaide, Kangaroo Island, Melbourne, Sydney, and northeast Australia. Is that, what was that place called? The Northern Territory or something? You damn ignorant American. What's that place called? Oh, Queensland. There's the Northern Territory. Oh, you gotta get close. I'm becoming much less of a bogan then. Public library does wonders. It's Queensland. Here we go. So, check it out. We're going to watch all sides of Australia for a significant movement to take place. Significant means way higher than where you are now. Guess where you are now? Well, I'm showing you 2 days worth of earthquakes as reported from the Europeans and the USGS. I'm guessing that you're at 0s, 1s, and 2s. Guessing. They're showing nothing. So if we take a huge step up from nothing, we're going up to 1s. Issue a warning for 1s across all of Australia. No, I'm not going to do that. But we are going to watch. Seriously, we have to watch for at least 4.0 level activity. I don't know if that really matters to you guys down there at Perth, down there at Adelaide. 4.0 level activity, it's enough to get your attention. Anything bigger comes in, goes up into the 5 range. All of a sudden, the media is covering it, and everybody's freaking out. It's a magnitude difference, but the difference is damage. So I hope I'm right. I think it'll be 4s across the board. I think most of this energy is going to be staying on the plate boundary and spreading out and away instead of sticking around and bouncing through the plate. Here at Australia, I think it's going to be going out and away. Man, big time movement to go from nothing to this. To go from a few quiet days where I don't have to talk at all to go back up to this is just significant. Now, speaking of significant, did you guys hear about the storms last night in Florida? I shared some links that I'm not going to really go into it too hard right now, but I'll just take you over and maybe we can still see it on the feed from last night. The land hurricane that kicked up here. I am not exaggerating either. It really got an eye and everything once it came on land. And it went over the radar station. There it is. This is last night. This is this morning. But this thing dropped 15 inches of record rainfall with its outer bands of, you see it rotating, right? Now, the rotation really didn't start on it till it went over the Mobile, Alabama NEXRAD radar station. And clear weather modification taking place using the radar station. Stations, plural. So Mobile, Alabama, definitely involved. Birmingham, Alabama, radar stations in modifying the storm. The eye of the storm, the actual physical open eye, formed and went to the 50 nautical mile range at the Birmingham NEXRAD. Now, 50 nautical mile range thing is something I've been telling my viewers about for the past several years as we've been documenting the NEXRAD weather modification phenomenon. And I would stand by it now that people at the National Weather Service, people in the military, people in the U.S. government have to know it was up for debate. It's not up for debate anymore. We watched it live. We've seen it now several times. And anybody who doesn't know about it, I don't know what to tell you. You're going to have to get up to speed. I'm not going to here to teach you on it and stuff. These are the discoveries we've made. I put them out. People denied it, but now it's happening on a regular basis. All stations across the United States, not just down in the South. And people are asking me why. Well, why would anybody want to control the weather? And in order to control the weather, you're going to have to experiment and figure out how to do it real time, live in the laboratory. And this is the laboratory. So there it is. It would be the weather modification from the National Weather Service and the military. That's who's doing it. And they're using the NEXRAD radar station's high-power microwaves to influence and move the storms around. That's what's happening. It's not up for debate anymore. If you don't know, I don't know. I tell you, you could go learn about it, and you're not going to convince me that I'm wrong. That's for certain. So, and you're not going to convince anybody else that I'm wrong either, really, because we've already showed it 1,000 times. The only people who are in denial are people who previously said it was not possible, and average Joe normies who just you know what I'm saying? And then there's a few people who just don't know. And they get all, you got to prove it. Dude, what? I did. Everybody denied the proof. So, I don't know what to tell you. Oh, and all my channels got deleted. And it all got deleted from the internet and the Wayback Machine as I got called a threat on the Department of Homeland Security website. A regular old science thing, Oh, you didn't see it? Ah, well. It's okay. You didn't see it? Really? You didn't see the weather? Now, let me show it to you one more time. Let me show it to you here. This rotating storm. Okay, y'all. We're going to save this as a video, and I'm going to get this out over on YouTube. And you guys be safe. Anything else happens, I'll be back at a moment's notice. Let's go ahead and also tell you to have an emergency kit, have a plan, be prepared, but I'm done beating that dead horse. All new people need to do is just have that emergency kit covered. That's a change of clothes, set of shoes, flashlight, batteries, first aid kit, sanitation. The long-term preparation and preparing, I'll just tell you, you guys need to do that on your own and look into it more. But the point is, don't be scared. You need to be prepared. And being prepared means watching the earthquakes like you'd watch the weather, which I didn't show you right here at the end. It doesn't matter. The rotation of the storm coming in and them influencing the storm here in the United States, storms, I don't know if it's being done internationally. I would think it would be. Can you prepare for stuff like that? I don't know. But for earthquakes, you can. And you can watch the earthquakes spread across the plates. And you can repeat my method. I've already published how to forecast an earthquake. If you want to know how to forecast an earthquake, the directions are on my channel in a video titled How to Forecast an Earthquake by Dutch Sense. Be safe. We'll be back. Look out for this on YouTube in just a little bit. Much love.